Hey, what's up, guys? This is my Boku no Pico review. Now, before anything happens, I just want to state whoever made this was clearly not in the right mindset. Whatever happens in this video, nobody should even dare touch themselves to it. Now, to give a little backstory, Boku no Pico is about a little boy. You don't have his exact age, but you know he's a minor who who is very feminine in appearance and the way that they dress, and even the way to down to the way that they speak. And this man gets very enthralled by the sight of him. The man, we'll call him Mokun because that's what they call him. So let's just say we got to the. At first, as it starts off, we know that the man is on the pier. He's just looking around. I must say that animation is done decently. I will say that animation is decent, but that doesn't excuse the fact that this is the worst thing ever cross anybody's eyes. This man is looking. So to start us off, this man is looking through a microscope or a telescope. He's looking around at the beach, and he's looking around. You could tell he hasn't had a girlfriend. He gets no pussy. He's basically desperate for sex, as he keeps looking at women. And then off onto the rocks, he finds Pico washing his clothes, and he gets enthralled by it. Later on, he goes to a cafe that he must frequent, and he finds out that the owner has a grandson. That grandson is Pico. At the sight of this, he blushes. Right here, he says, the grandfather, with good intentions, he did not force Pico to go with him because of money or anything, I must mind you, said that they should keep each other company since they really don't have friends. You could tell, and then an incident with the coffee happens. It embarrasses Pico a little bit, but he jokes about it because he doesn't want to get him sad. Till this point, he blushes, sticking out his tongue. Later on, they start hanging out. They walk to the same pier with the microscope, with Pico wearing a very feminine attire, down to the point where it's a little. It comes off that he's gay. It makes it seem that he's gay. Now at this point, this is where things start getting a little too creepy. So Pico can't reach the telescope, so he tells him to hold him up a little. So he tells Mokun to hold him up a little bit so he can see through it, which he grabs him and he has him by the back. And then he holds him up even higher so that his head reaches his head, so that way Pico could see better. But when it's right there, he starts sniffing the back of his head. Later on, Pico says he wants ice cream, and thus we get to the infamous ice cream scene. As we can see, Pico is eating her ice cream, his ice cream, and then he decides to share some with Mokun. And Mokun, while this is all happening, Mokun is very enticed by the sight of this. It makes him think of devious things. Eventually, Pico gives him some ice cream, and Mokun accidentally spills it on himself, and then he tells Pico to lick it off. And this is when things get very creepy. I'm not going to show you any of the graphic details, but I am just going to say that the scene in the car is very sexual, to say the least. With the man, at first he just plays around with Pico. Very odd. Well, it's odd because it's a child. You shouldn't be touching a child like that. But he's playing with him, and then he gives Pico a BJ. The next scene, after that, Pico tells him, of course, that he's in love. And then at the next scene, we can see Pico's back at the cafe, and Mokun is ready for date number 2. As he enters the door, he says, "Yo," and they leave. And of course, it's raining. And they're like, "Oh man, it's raining. I didn't know this was gonna happen. If I did, we should have just brought the car." And Pico's all wet, and he's all wet. So he takes Pico to his house so he could shower, and he buys him new clothes. A very feminine attire that Pico was very confused about. He even tells him, I'm a boy though. But Mokun says I thought she'll like it because of the way that Pico dresses and the way that he acts. Right here, he says, yeah, you're much more beautiful than any woman, which falls into a philosophy that you've probably heard of called the trap philosophy. This is where men are more attracted to traps than women because they think that a trap understands them because they themselves are a man, so they know the needs of a man more than a woman would, and a man would be able to please another man more. But it's not gay because this man is technically a woman. But I'm not gonna get too much into that. But this is basically implying that he has that philosophy. Of course, they have a very type of scene. It's very sexual. And then after that, Pico asks him, "What am I to you?" And Mokun hesitates to answer. Pico then gets mad and runs away. After this, Pico cuts his hair and dresses more masculine-like. And you could tell that he was hurt by these words and he's trying to like not put off a feminine vibe. But eventually Mokun pops up there and he's trying to apologize. And you know, after that they go play in the water, and then on the public beach they decide to have a 6-9 with each other. With it eventually ending with Pico in his bed again saying, I love you. Let me just say, this was a learning experience. I didn't know people were into this. I I couldn't even bear the thought of touching myself. Like it was just that bad. I will say that the animation, as well as I have said before, they all have pretty decent voice actors. The subtitles are pretty good. They give you a good sense of the story. And the story, it's a little messed up. Well, it's not a little messed up. It's very messed up. The context of it is that a man is trying to go out with a very feminine, young, underage boy just so he could get a sexual pleasure. But in Japan, for all we know, Pico could be over 13, and in Japan, the age of consent is 13. But even then, that is still wrong because they're barely old enough to make their own decisions. But also, something that strikes me as odd is that, yes, I know that the grandpa wanted them to hang out so that they could give each other company, but he didn't find it odd that was happening very frequently. It's just something that I noticed, and this is only the first episode. Tomorrow I'll have the review of the second one done. So until then, this is Humphrey the P-chan, and this is my Boku no Pico episode 1 review.